Hey everyone, and welcome to Real Life Real Crime Daily for Friday, October 27th. And I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agovino. Happy Friday, fellas.
So
Happy Friday.
Friday, right?
That's
Well,
right. Mike gets a day off tomorrow.
I do.
Monday.
I get my honey-do list by 7:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, Jim.
Do you really?
That. Oh, yeah. That's delivered with a rose. I get a red rose.
A rose?
Yeah, I get a red rose on the pillow right next to the honey-do list. So,
what happens if you go on strike and you say, F it, I'm not doing it?
That's never happened, Woody.
There's no telling what would happen if that
That's
happened.
That's never happened. That would throw the world out of its orbit if something like that happened.
Hey, you know what, fellas, let's get into some crime time for Friday. Talk about what the whole country's talking about, right? This mass shooter.
You know, I was watching Fox News last night and about, I don't know what time it was, 9 o'clock or so. And it was the lead story, obviously just a horrific event taking place, tragic mass shooting in Maine, in which 22 people, as of this recording, have been killed and 30, 40 plus people injured. I'm seeing conflicting reports on that, and I've seen reports as high as 50 plus people injured. And the insane thing about this whole situation outside of the shooting is they haven't caught the guy yet.
Yeah, that's scary because with all his training and everything, and he didn't take himself out of the equation, it makes me fear that he's going to do it again. Firearms instructor, military trained. You've been in the mental hospital for 2 weeks. He's threatened to shoot up the National Guard base before. And how do you do it? And but his vehicle being found by the marina, like we were talking about before we started broadcasting. Did he get on a boat? I don't know. But everybody knows who he is. But it's scary that he didn't take himself out. I don't know if he wants suicide by cop or he's just going to, in his brain, he's just going to kill everybody.
Well, is there any precedent for something like that? I can't recall any of these mass shooters ever getting away for any kind of extended period of time. They usually want to try and become famous and go out with a bang, right?
Yeah, the only ones that, and it wasn't mass shooters, the only ones that got away for any period of time and killed more people were the Boston Marathon bombers, right? That I can think of.
Yeah.
But this guy, wow.
Right. So, maybe that's even scarier because maybe this guy's got, didn't know if he'd get this far, and now that he's gotten this far.
Oh, I'm sure he was surprised he made it past the first shooting.
Right.
I'm sure he was shocked. And the crazy thing is, between the first shooting and the second shooting, there was a 10-minute time span. So, and look, none of this is being put off on police. Obviously, they're killing it right now and doing everything they can to catch this guy and have all these resources. But to kill that many people and then there's a 10-minute time span, you're able to make it to another place. I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
Right.
4 miles apart too. Jim, you say, the police are doing great work, and obviously they are, and we've got tons of resources that have been marshaled to the area. But some of the coverage I was listening to this morning, the FBI is being criticized for, the people that they do seem to have their eye on in this country and the people that they seem to not have their eye on in this country. And, you got a guy who this summer is in a facility for multiple weeks and has talked about shooting up his National Guard unit. And this guy's a weapons instructor. And why isn't this guy away?
I don't know. It's our hearts go out to everybody. And hopefully they'll catch it before he kills someone else. Hopefully he ran out of ammunition or something. I don't see that happening, but I don't know why you would just stop shooting after 2 shooting events unless you really are trying to get away.
So what we plan on doing is we're going to do a pickup after this story if in the event massive things change. So we're just making y'all aware of that. If we pick up with another story here regarding his capture or something of that nature, that's why we pre-recorded this. And as you know, these stories are fluid and they change on a dime. So
Right.
Look for that.
Hearts go out to all of them.
100%.
Hopefully everybody else stays safe.
So let's go into our first story of the day, our planned first story of today, and that is Mike and I did a little podcast without Woody the other day, and you know, I don't know about Mike, but Mike, we rocked it, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I think y'all did a great job.
And we rocked it.
I don't believe any of those rating
NBC's
services
calling us.
I don't believe any of those rating services that say we lost 15% of the audience without that can't possibly be correct.
Can't possibly. But one of the things we discussed, and this is a really sad story where a young female drank an energy drink and passed away due to complications from that. And her family was suing Panera Bread over that incident. And I had mentioned during that conversation the McDonald's incident where the lady had spilled coffee on her and sued McDonald's because the coffee was hot, essentially. And look, apparently some people are more up on that case than me, because I had some messages and they said I need to brush up on my McDonald's hot coffee stories. And I'm thinking, I ain't thought about this since 1992, y'all. You know, that was just kind of a situation where that was off the cuff, totally off the cuff. We didn't plan on talking about McDonald's at all in that episode, but I did go back and check some facts, and I decided to make that my first story because these people reached out and wanted to make sure I corrected the record on that incident. So just real quick for those of you for a brush up on that McDonald's hot coffee case. In 1992, 79-year-old Stella Liebeck bought a cup of takeout coffee at a McDonald's drive-thru in Albuquerque and spilled it on her lap. She sued McDonald's and a jury awarded her nearly $3 million in punitive damages for the burns she suffered. Now, the typical reaction back then, y'all, was, isn't coffee supposed to be hot? And McDonald's didn't pour the coffee on her. She spilled it on herself. Besides, she was driving a car and wasn't paying attention. Those were kind of what you would hear. The facts of that case are actually Miss Liebeck was not driving when her coffee spilled, nor was the car she was in even moving. She was the passenger in a car that stopped in front of a parking lot at McDonald's where she bought the coffee. She had the cup between her knees, and while removing the lid to add cream and sugar, that's when the cup tipped over and spilled the contents on her lap. The coffee wasn't just hot, it was dangerously hot. McDonald's corporate policy was to serve it at a temperature that could cause serious burns in seconds. Miss Liebeck's injuries were far from frivolous. She was wearing sweatpants and absorbed the coffee in it. You know, when you're wearing sweatpants, it just kind of sits on your skin. Mm-hmm. She suffered third-degree burns, which are the most serious kind, and required skin grafts on her inner thighs and elsewhere. The other thing that complicated that case was McDonald's. That wasn't just limited to her. They had received more than 700 reports and many, many lawsuits over overly hot coffee, I guess you could say. In the beginning, initially, she offered to settle that case for $20,000. McDonald's said, no, we'll give you $800. That $20,000 essentially was going to cover her skin grafts, etc. So she took them to court, and that's how she ended up with the $3 million. When it was all said and done and the smoke cleared, they found out that the franchise had a kind of like a rule that this coffee is to be served and held at 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, when you brew coffee, I did a little research on that, and usually it's around 205 degrees is what the National Coffee Association recommends for brewing. But once it's being held, obviously it cools down a little bit, and that was considered an extreme high temperature for coffee being held. There's a belief out there that the colder your coffee is, the less flavor you get, and that's probably accurate. McDonald's at that time was known for having good coffee. I mean, I know a lot of people back in that day that, they love McDonald's coffee, and they swear that since they changed the temperature, that coffee is not as good. And that may be true. But that was kind of the deal. So at no time, I didn't want people to think I was throwing shade on her or insinuating she, sued them frivolously. I was just saying, there's some common sense out there that coffee is very hot, obviously. And I didn't know all the facts of that case. So I do now. And so do all of you.
There is some common sense that coffee is hot, but did that become a civil action? Did a bunch of people then join that?
I know after that. I don't think so, but I know after that they changed. They actually put caution hot on their cups.
Yeah. So, yeah. There was a lot of little things that came out of that case that I didn't mention, like, for example, having more accurate signage and things on the product itself explaining that it was hot. So that was some things that came out of that. But the money aspect of it, I'm sure somebody's going to use that or used that as a precedent somewhere. And, because the problem with the result of a case like that is then you set precedent. Once you set precedent, it's hard to get out of it.
Oh, yeah. So that's why I'm wondering, has McDonald's ended up after that first $3 million cutting a couple $100 million worth of checks to just get people to go away who say they got hurt?
I haven't heard that, but not out of the realm of possibility.
I know the prices are way much more than they were back in the 90s, right?
Right.
Was like
that was
$10 for a meal. Yeah.
Yeah, and an interesting just thing that I'll end with, Woody, now that you brought it up, is the way they determined that $3 million, because obviously when you're in court, money has to make sense somehow, and they came up with that figure. And where did the jury come up with that figure? Well, they subpoenaed McDonald's and got the records for every single cup of coffee they had sold over a 2-year time period, and that's what they awarded her.
Wow.
They basically said you get 2 years worth of their sales in coffee.
And McDonald's had only done $3 million in sales over 2 years.
Well, I mean, a cup of coffee back then was only like you're talking 30 years ago. Or, 30 years ago. Yeah, 32 years ago. Yeah, it was less than $1 for a cup of coffee. So that's
billions and billions served. I don't know. That sounds, I'm surprised that the number was that low, but.
Interesting. Let's go to Israel, y'all, and talk about everybody knows what's going on over there. And, I still think it's a tragedy. But as we know all too well, on October 7th, the terrorist group Hamas launched a deadly attack on Israel that included the specific targeting of the Nova Music Festival in the southern part of the country. At the music festival, terrorists mutilated innocent civilians and took hostages. Many of those are still being held in Gaza. A 23-year-old American citizen by the name of Adir Basika attended the Nova Festival along with his girlfriend and some other friends. Adir served in the Israeli Defense Force, or the IDF, in a combat engineering unit. According to his aunt, he didn't talk a lot about it. It was clandestine for the most part, but he loved life, and he cared very much about being able to be free and to live in a country that prioritized and protected freedom. She went on to say that Adir fought for those principles and had remained in the military for longer than the standard mandatory service. His aunt, whose name is Moriel Lotan, believes Adir knew what his end was going to be, and he did it anyway. Adir Maseka and his group, which included several longtime friends, His girlfriend and another young woman were resting in tents at the festival on October 7th when they began to hear the rocket sirens. When Masika and his friends began to hear the sound of machine guns firing and Arabic language chatter, it became clear that they may be dealing with terrorists looking to hunt and kill them. The men witnessed terrorists approaching shelters similar to theirs and tossing grenades into them. And as the terrorists approached their shelter, Adair and his best friend Eli instructed the two young women to hide. Then they left the shelter with one other friend and charged the Hamas gunmen in an attempt to divert attention away from the shelter. All three were killed by gunfire in this heroic act of self-sacrifice. The women remained in the shelter for 6 hours until the IDF soldiers arrived and rescued them. Masika, Eli, and their third childhood friend Matan were buried side by side in Israel. "We're broken and devastated and angry and sad and worried," said Latan in an interview with Fox. She added that her nephew was a larger-than-life individual whose friends and family will now live that way in his honor. She said, "We all have to live a really large life in his name because that's what he would have wanted. And we have to be meaningful with our lives because he was meaningful with his." Latan also said that since her nephew's tragic murder, her family has received an unparalleled outpouring of love from the community in Israel. Some 3,000 people attended Adair Masika's funeral, many of whom told his family how much they admired their loved one's love of life. "I think that Adair would want Israel to be really making sure to eradicate that kind of threat," she said about the aftermath of the barbaric attack. "I'm going to do my best, and his family would do their best to try and not only take care of the immediate needs that Israel has right now, but also try to be a lighthouse for what's to come afterward and help rally the support towards rebuilding and healing." Right? Hero.
Wow.
True.
Wow, hero.
Probably one of hundreds that day. But, you know.
Can you
Great
imagine
story coming out of a horrible situation right there.
Yeah.
You're there with your friends for a concert. You're laying in a tent, and the next thing you know, you're hearing machine gun fire. And then in that moment, you decide to protect the women and put yourself at risk like that.
Machine guns and hand grenades, man. They were throwing hand grenades into these tents where people were resting. It's crazy. I don't get it. Well,
wow. That's, I'd say thank you for your service, but Adair, that's not, I mean, that just goes so far beyond anything I can imagine. So, but I think it's important to tell those kinds of stories here because,
well, you know, in Israel,
a very different perspective.
Israel is different to us in the respect that everyone has a mandatory military service, right? So everyone is trained. I guess training kicked in and try to save some people. May rest in peace.
Yep. Well,
hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey, y'all. Changing my wardrobe from summer to fall, it's never easy. Luckily, Quince offers timeless and high-quality items I adore. Ensure my wardrobe stays fresh and I don't blow my budget. And there's nothing easier than going to Quince and choosing these high-quality items, like cashmere sweaters from $50, pants for every occasion, washable silk tops, and so much more. The best part? All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes, and I love that. I got the stainless steel Link Apple Watch band for $59.90. It's heavy duty, it's awesome, and it's like $100 less than I could find anywhere else. And I also got a 100% organic cotton fisherman quarter zip up sweater. The color is alabaster. Man, I can't wait to wear that this fall. And Cindy got the Mongolian cashmere boat neck sweater in heather gray. And I'm telling you, these are classic pieces at a fraction of the price. Make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/RLRC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/RLRC to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/RLRC. You'll thank me later.
We end up doing so many jail escape stories that my curiosity got to me, and I started doing some research on some of the better escapees and how many times they've escaped, et cetera, and came upon this guy that they call the Florida Houdini. His name is Mark DeFriest. You guys ever heard of Mark DeFriest?
No, but I bet.
No, but I've heard of Houdini.
I bet he can't beat Charlie Frazier's record.
Yeah.
On Bloody Angola. Y'all go listen
You
to
ain't
that.
beating that one.
Yeah.
What was that record? How many times?
Over 30-something times.
30-something. Okay.
They built us
Twice from Angola, or once from Angola.
This guy doesn't have his numbers, but he might have him on creativity, ingenuity. Let's see.
Yeah.
So, Mark DeFriest was born August 18th, 1960. He's known as the Houdini of Florida. He successfully escaped prison 7 times. He attempted many more escapes. He was born in rural Florida. The first time he was arrested was in 1978. It was for a misdemeanor, but his time in prison really gets started in 1980 in a bizarre way. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison for violating his probation via an illegal firearms possession charge. But this firearms possession charge was blatantly unfair. The charges related to a set of work tools that DeFriest's recently deceased father had left to DeFriest in his will. His father's will had not yet cleared or completed probate, so officially they weren't his to take yet, and he took possession of the tools anyway, which then made it a crime. And for that, they sent him away for 4 years. Pretty unbelievable. I mean, pretty severe. So his sentence has since been repeatedly extended for having attempted to escape 13 times, including 1 count of armed robbery during an attempt. We'll talk about that 1 count of armed robbery, as well as collecting hundreds and hundreds of disciplinary reports for minor infractions, leading to a cumulative stay of 34 years in prison. So this guy has remained in prison for 34 years, starting with that 4 years that came from that illegal firearms possession, which started with the tools his dad had left him. So following a bunch of publicity, DeFriest was granted parole and released on February 5th of 2019. 10 days later, he was arrested again as he checked into a mental health facility. The stories on some of these escapes are pretty inspiring. DeFriest made his first escape after a month at Florida State Hospital in Chattahoochee. His initial plan there was to get everybody high. And then when everybody started freaking out, he would escape. So to accomplish this, he used his extraordinary skills to gain access to the hospital's pharmacy, from which he obtained 75 to 100 tabs of the powerful hallucinogenic drug LSD-25, which
Mike was, where was this at?
In
What's
mental
Florida.
hospital in Florida.
But where in Florida?
Florida State Hospital in Chattahoochee.
Way down yonder on the Chattahoochee.
It gets hotter.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I couldn't let that pass.
Well, that was specifically a Georgia-related Alan Jackson song. Thank you. But that is the greatest river to tube. You ever tube in the Chattahoochee?
No, too.
Oh man, talk about awesome! The river moves along at a couple of miles an hour. It's like the perfect pace to be on an inner tube, and people just float kegs, float down with tons of beer and other things. Just waste a day getting wasted on the Chattahoochee. I think Alan was talking more about that than he was.
And they do that for like eight. They do that for like 8 hours, and nobody gets up to pee.
Yeah. The river's got a color that looks a lot like that beer from China.
Yeah, right.
What's it called, Jim?
Continue.
Tsingtao?
Right. Yeah.
A lot like the Tsingtao. So anyway, Friest gets access to the hospital's pharmacy, and he obtains 75 to 100 tabs of this LSD, which he then spikes the coffee that the staff is drinking at that facility with the LSD. So, of course, all of the guards begin to freak out, but his plan collapsed because somebody got wise and called security before he could make his move, and he had to surrender. In another escape, he and multiple other prisoners attempted to scale the facility's boundary wall. He got over the fence, he hotwired a car, and he made a successful escape before being recaptured several days later and put in the Bay County jail. And probably his most famous escape, he constructed a gun out of a toothpaste tube. So he constructed a zip gun out of a toothpaste tube, and he was also able to he had a photographic memory, so he could look at a key on a guard, and he could take a picture of that key in his head, and he could go back and use multiple different substances to build a copycat key.
Now that's cool.
To what and so one of his escapes that involved the gun made out of a toothpaste tube combined with 3 different sets of keys that he had just from his photographic memory memorized, and he was able to escape there and then got caught after he had held up a place with the gun made out of the toothpaste tube. But this guy who's the former warden of Florida State Prison, Ron McAndrews, said, "I've met a lot of brilliant people in my time, but I've only met one, Mark DeFriest. His brilliance is so great that it's hard to describe." Come to find out that, this guy infuriated people and made them crazy everywhere, but he had Asperger's that wasn't diagnosed until later in life. So he's on the autism spectrum, way genius IQ. Nobody knew how to deal with this guy his whole life. He gets put away for that ridiculous reason, and he spends, is still in prison today, but has spent his time in prison coming up with ways to get out of prison. 27 of his years now have been sent in solitary because of it, because nobody can figure out how the heck to handle him. But I thought that was a really interesting story about an escapee. Again, it's Mark DeFriest, and they call him the Florida Houdini.
Wow.
That's crazy. Super intelligent, right? And has nothing to do but figure out how to escape. So, 24 hours a day.
The key story is pretty interesting.
Yeah, the legend has it, Charlie Frazier, they welded his cell shut.
Yep, the Red Hat cell block.
Red Hat cell block.
Woody, could you use, like I saw Kirk do this on an episode when he had to take out the Gorn on Star Trek. Can you use natural materials to build a gun? And
yeah, you can, but you still have to have a bullet.
No, I'm speaking specifically of Woody Overton, the survivalist. Can you, if you're out there, can you construct a gun?
I have too many firearms to have to construct one.
What if I gave you what if I seeded you with the tube of toothpaste? Could you take it from there?
Probably not, because I'm not very mechanically inclined. I can't build shit. So, but interesting.
All right, and this next story may shock you when I get into the details, but 8 children were abducted from Arkansas, and they were found in the parking lot of a restaurant in California over the weekend. According to police, they arrested the children's mother. Trista Fullerton, 36, is accused of 36, and she had 8 children, is accused of kidnapping her children from their foster homes after she lost her custodial rights. Fullerton of Rogers, Arkansas, remains behind bars at the Shasta County Jail in Redding, California. It's not clear whether she has an attorney or not. Anderson police were called to the parking lot around 12:30 a.m. on Saturday after a person saw a woman displaying bizarre behavior. A welfare check was requested for her, and the 6 children were with her, and 6 of the children were with her. The family was found to be associated with a Dodge pickup truck with an Arkansas license plate. Officers learned that Fullerton had a felony warrant for arrest in Arkansas, alleging the abduction of her 8 children. She was taken into custody, and police learned through an interview that the 2 other children were at a home in the area of Cottonwood, California. The Shasta County Sheriff's Office helped retrieve the 2 children from that home. All 8 children were placed in the care of the Shasta County Children and Family Services and will be reunited with their guardians in Arkansas. That's 8 crazy. Children, and she kidnapped them from her, the people that were assigned to take care of them, the foster parents.
That's a long ass ways from Rogers, Arkansas to California. How do you feed 8 kids and get them there? That
sort of sounds like maybe a trafficking thing. I wonder if she was trying to sell them, because Redding is the very northern border of California. So you're at the Oregon-California border. You're not that far from Canada there, going up through state of Washington, Seattle. You hit Vancouver, Canada over there. It wouldn't shock me if that was a trap. I mean, she gave up 8 kids to foster.
Well, we don't know that she gave them up or they took them from her.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of times they'll take them for arrest or drug violations or what have you. But remember, they said 2 of the kids, she had to know somebody up there because 2 of the kids were in a nearby house. And,
right.
And
it's a weird place to go.
Other ones. Strange story, but interesting, right? Yesterday's show, I talked about the dinosaurs. Y'all remember that? And then last week, of course, we did the egg stuff. I think platypus has to be a creature that's kind of like a throwback to a dinosaur. But anyway, we learned in last week's egg game that the platypus is one of only 2 mammals that lay eggs. This week, we'll learn that you can't just take one and then take a train ride with it, right? A 26-year-old man has been charged for removing a platypus from its natural habitat in Morayfield, a town in Australia. Jim, give me an accent.
Good eye, mate.
Right. According to the Queensland police on Thursday, following a hunt for the suspect and animal. Police say that the man, accompanied by a woman, took the platypus from a local waterway on Tuesday and traveled by train to the nearby town of Kubalature, where they entered a shopping mall and showed the animal to members of the public, right? Because they're going to get away with it. The man, who's not been named, was charged with 1 count of taking a protected animal and a restriction on keeping or using a protected animal. Such charges, get this, can carry a maximum penalty of $300,000. The platypus current condition is unknown, although police were advised that the animal was released into the nearby Kabulature River. It has not yet been located by authorities. Queensland police caution that a platypus can become sick or die while out of its natural habitat and warn that it should not be fed or introduced to a new environment. Male platypuses also have a venomous spurs on their hind feet. I did not know that, making them dangerous for humans to handle. If you're lucky enough to see a platypus in the wild, keep your distance. Never pat, hold, or take an animal from the wild, police said in a statement. The platypus removal from its habitat sparked a police hunt as both the force and the Department of Environment and Science made a joint appeal for the animal's surrender. Right? They're going to... How you appeal to an animal for it to surrender? But anyway, police had released pictures of two people, one carrying the platypus and another carrying a bag, in their initial appeal for information. The man is due to appear in court on Saturday. And native to Australia, platypuses are small amphibious mammals known for their distinctive duck-like bill, unlike most other mammals, for laying eggs as well as producing milk for their young. It's kind of strange, right?
And who would have thought it would be like a bad thing to pet a platypus?
I don't know. Who thought they were poisonous? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But Woody, I suppose officially then we'll have to add the platypus to your list of exclusive species. I think you have
platypus,
otters, walrus, elephant seals, manatees.
Yeah.
He's got all the cool animals.
Add dinosaurs too.
Dinosaurs. I don't recall dinosaurs being exclusively yours. We'll have to check that.
We'll flip for the next dinosaur story.
Okay, we can do that. Well, you guys know what's you guys know what's coming up Tuesday, right?
Halloween, baby.
Yep.
Halloween. And we got some major candy crime going on here in the old US of A that Mike is going to report on. Candy prices have surged year over year with Halloween around the corner, according to shopper intelligence platform Catalina. That's an interesting company. That's that company that every time you pass your little barcode there as you're going to check out, all of that data is being stored by this company Catalina that then feeds through supply chains and alerts on store inventories and all kinds of stuff. It's an interesting company. But so they have the actual data on who's buying what, when, and where. According to the new data for the 13-week period ended August 21st, average candy prices had increased 16% year over year. So that 13-week period, so basically summer 23 versus summer of 22, candy prices were up 16%. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, sugar shortages are to blame. An agricultural policy that requires 85% of sugar purchases to come from domestic partners instead of international sources like the Dominican Republic, Brazil, or the Philippines is putting a strain on U.S. sugar supplies. And if supplies are low while demand remains high, we all know what happens. Prices go up. According to the most recent Consumer Price Index from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the cost of candy rose 13.1% last year, the biggest year-over-year increase ever recorded. So we got an increase of 13%, and then on top of that, a more recent increase of 16%. So candy prices are way the heck up, but candy isn't the only thing that's costing more this year. Cocoa costs are also rising due to supply chain issues and an ongoing drought. Fresh produce costs are also rising thanks to record rainfall and floods in most of California. This all adds up to a more expensive Halloween for consumers, but it's probably not enough to stop them from buying their favorites. In 2022, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups ranked as the favorite candy in the U.S., with Kit Kat coming in a close second. Rounding out the sweet bunch was Skittles, M&Ms, and Snickers bars. So make sure you have a bunch on hand for all those Barbie and Kens. Those are the top outfits, embarrassingly enough, in the U.S. for this Halloween, and various other freaks that will soon be ringing your doorbell. Halloween costing more, and that's a crime.
I tell you how to save a bunch of money and stop it from going up 16% next year. What you do is you go the day after Halloween to your local Dollar General store, and they'll put all that candy on sale, and you just buy it all and put it in your attic.
I don't know that the attic is the perfect place for storage, but don't they have sell-by dates on all that stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really.
Yeah, we should give them kids. Who cares?
Go to hey, look at this, Mom! Look at this great Hershey bar I got at the Overton house. Yes, Sonny, but it says please consume by April of 1986. You might not want to eat that candy.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Good.
Oh, it's
Always
like the
loved
everlasting gobstopper.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one. I always loved Halloween.
Well, and you're right. It's insanely expensive. I mean, a little small bag now is like $5, and you get like, there's a little fun size.
We should
maybe 20 of them in a bag.
Another idea. We can all dress up and go trick or treating and get a whole bunch of candy and then save it for next year.
That's right. I like the way Woody thinks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check those sell-by dates and see.
Yeah.
Well, Woody, ever been to Disney World?
I lived in Orlando for a little while, and I went to Disney World too many times.
Mike?
I'm not ever going again.
I only went to Disney World once as a kid, growing up in New York, but I went to Disneyland tons of times when we lived in California. So,
well, I'm going to give you a Disney World story and a crime that took place there recently. A Walt Disney World guest is going viral on social media for jumping into the World Showcase Lagoon at Epcot this week.
I saw that.
A passerby who saw the whole thing go down said they were walking through the Italy pavilion on Monday around 5:30 when they heard a man and his friends acting up. It caught our attention, they said. Apparently, the friends were talking about a bet, and one says to the other that he'd give him $6,000 if he jumped in the water. And Woody, if you ever bet me that, I'm jumping in the water.
Yeah,
$6
that's a
grand?
no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
Oh, yeah. $6,000. I'll take that ticket. I wanted to stick around to see if anything would happen. Brendan and Gwen, the people that filmed this incident, said. That's when the man climbed up on the railing. How deep is that water? He's heard saying in the video. About a minute later, he jumps in. People watching the scene unfold at Epcot were shouting at the man, as heard in the video. You're going to get kicked out of Disney, mister. One person is heard saying. Another says, he's going to jump. Security, however, wasn't far behind. The Disney manager was on her radio even before he hit the water. So when he joined his buddies, Disney security was right behind him. And I know I know if you've been recently, listeners, that you've seen these guys in the yellow and red jackets that say security on the back, the Disney security.
What they did when they jumped, he made every one of the security guards day. They just like that's going to happen. Absolutely.
So a Disney manager, radioed for backup, and they asked Disney security, who did take him into custody, for a statement, and they said, we reserve the right to deny admission, prevent entry, or require any person already admitted to Disney to leave Walt Disney World Resort without refund, liability, or compensation for failure to comply with rules. And obviously this was one of the rules. And the interesting thing is with, Disney, everything is one thing they are good at is theming their parks. And so obviously they don't have all their security is underground. You actually go through a tunnel, you go underground, and there's like an actual jail there. And there's a booking room and even an interrogation room. And so they brought him there, and there has been nobody has said if they've filed official charges, but I'll bet they filed some charges on him.
Yeah, they just like Walmart. They're not going to let you get away with it. That's for sure.
They got $6,000. I'm in the water.
They got to make an example out of them. Otherwise, everybody's going to do it for TikTok or whatever, right?
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if there was a big fight? The Disney security guys have to kick the shit out of a guy right there in front of all of these kids and their lollipops with mommy and daddy walking by in the happiest place on earth. And they're watching some guy get the shit kicked out of him at the happiest place.
Dole whips.
Crazy. Dude, I know
a
people,
Dole whip though.
I know people that go to Disney like 3 or 4 times a year. And actually my wife and son are going in December. So, but I'm not. I'll be hunting.
I've been probably 10 times in my life, 12 times.
Yeah.
Used to go every year with the kids and stuff. They got older, and then it was like, want to do older,
Yeah.
I guess, adult
I like
stuff.
Universal better back then. Of course, I'm talking in the early 90s, because Universal sold beer, but now I understand that Disney World sells beer also. But
Yep.
I mean, you were late waiting in line. They came around, like at a ball game or something. Ooh, that kind of makes my head hurt thinking about the other day.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of an LSU Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
All right, let's get to another place I lived in Tennessee, y'all. Police in Laverne, Tennessee, were searching for a suspect after 2 officers were shot.
Wait a minute. Woody, did you say Laverne, Tennessee?
Yeah.
Laverne. You remember our officer from Laverne?
Was that her? That's where she was from?
Yeah, Megan. Yes. It was Laverne. She was the one who was sleeping with everybody. Like 5 cops got fired out of that department from that thing. Don't you remember that story?
Well, listen to this, because there's less of them now. Police in Laverne, Tennessee, were searching for a suspect after 2 officers were shot outside of Dollar General while investigating a stolen vehicle, according to Laverne Police Chief Chris Mose. The suspect was later identified as John C. Drake, 38, the son of Metropolitan Nashville Police Chief John Drake. I am shocked and deeply saddened to learn that my estranged son, with whom I've had very minimal contact over many years, is the suspect in this afternoon's shooting of the 2 Laverne police officers, the chief said in a statement. My thoughts and prayers are with the 2 officers who I understand are now in stable condition at Vanderbilt. Mose said while the officers were investigating, they had contact with a subject. They struggled with the subject, and the suspect produced a handgun and fired shots. He said that one of the officers, a 3-year veteran with the force, suffered a gunshot wound to the left shoulder, and the other officer, who had been with the department for a year and a half, was shot in the right groin and right forearm. Both were listed in stable condition. Mose said the suspect is 5'11" with a muscular build and facial hair and dreadlocks. He was wearing a black T-shirt with a white hockey mask emblem on the front with red lettering and gray pants. He was last seen headed northbound on Stones River Road. Officials said Drake is considered armed and dangerous, and a shelter-in-place order remained in effect for the Lake Forest community as of 9 p.m. local time. Avoid the area and report anything suspicious, police said. In his statement, Chief Drake added, "Despite my efforts and guidance in the early and teenage years, my son, John Drake Jr., now 38, resorted to years of criminal activity and is a convicted felon. He has not been part of my life for quite some time. He now needs to be found and held accountable for his actions today. I hope that anyone who sees him has information about him will contact law enforcement." The city of Laverne added Saturday evening, the suspect, John C. Drake Jr., is considered armed, dangerous, and the shelter-in-place order is still active. I doubt if that's still going on, y'all. But residents of the Lake Forest community should stay inside and lock your doors. If you see something suspicious, call police. So, crazy.
Wow, it's been a crazy year in Laverne. What about that's the Nashville chief of police's son?
Yeah.
Man.
Biologically, anyway.
Feel for that. I mean, can you imagine you ever have something like that where somebody you knew well in the force's kid committed a significant crime like that?
Yeah, shit. I had to think about that one. Certainly, people that you work with commit crimes too, and I've had to arrest cops before. So,
well, yeah, and we're here with Jim, and we know what his record looks like. So,
yeah.
When you think about the leadership of the country, the folks in Washington, D.C., there's a certain amount of, I don't know, maybe it's me, but a certain amount of decorum you would expect from them in dealing with their staffs, and a certain maturity level maybe that might exist there. And some audio leaked out earlier this week involving a Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee, that has gone viral. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but it's pretty unbelievable. So Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee, who is running for Houston mayor right now, was allegedly, I don't know why it's allegedly because it's her voice, caught in an audio recording cursing at her staffers and calling them names. The audio appeared to be recorded by a staffer, and shuffling is heard when he reaches for his cell phone, promising Jackson Lee that he will contact another staffer about a paper she had given him. So the Congresswoman accuses the staffer of, quote, not having a effing brain. Then she says, "I don't want you to do a goddamn thing. I want you to have an effing brain. I want you to have to read it." She's talking about a paper there. "Nobody sent me the information I need to ensure my schedule. And, if Boo-Boo did it, shit-ass did it, fuckface did it. And nobody knows a goddamn thing in my office." Okay, nothing. The rest of the audio clip comes after Jackson Lee is confronted by a second staffer about the same paper, which surrounded an event in honor of the late Ovid Duncantel, who founded the Black Heritage Society. Duncantel was heavily involved in Houston politics during his lifetime, and Jackson Lee is currently running, as I said, for mayor there. Quote, "Okay, so when I call Jerome, he's only sitting up there like a fat-ass stupid idiot talking about what the fuck. He doesn't know, okay, both of y'all are fuck-ups. It's the worst shit that I could ever have had put together," she says. "Two goddamn big-ass children, effing idiots, serve no goddamn purpose." And it goes on from there. And it reminded me, you guys remember Casey Kasem, the old top 40, American top 40 job?
Every Sunday, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so back in the day in the radio business, he was infamous for being really hard on his production staff at American Top 40. And somebody sent around audio that makes what you just heard from Jackson Lee, sound like a pre-K classroom. I mean, all of a sudden it's Casey Kasem's voice, and he is F-bomb after, just abusing every single person on the staff. It's pretty funny to hear that voice and then hear all of that cursing. But I don't think if I'm looking for an internship in politics, I'm looking to intern for the Houston mayor, should she be elected anytime soon.
Right. Crazy.
Attitude City. All right, we don't have sound effects still. So we're going to, Woody, give us your best plane sound effect.
I don't have one.
Good enough. Good enough. We did Mike's the other day, and Mike's
You can now take off your seat and seatbelt
ordering
freely around the cabin. Yeah.
There you go. Very good. And it is a mile-high crime. And we're going to stay in Houston and tell you this crazy story. An airport in Houston temporarily grounded all flights on Tuesday after 2 private jets collided on the tarmac. The incident took place around 3:30 p.m. when a twin-engine jet departed without permission from the William P. Hobby Airport runway and collided with another twin-engine jet that was landing on the runway, according to the FAA. No injuries were reported in the collision, and it's unclear how many people are on board the aircraft. The departing plane was identified as a Hawker H-25B, which is a corporate aircraft, while the arriving flight was a Cessna C-510 business class jet. The 2 private jets clipped their wings as they were moving on the airfield. The airport remained under a ground stop while crews worked to remove the debris, and the airport announced the debris had been cleared just after 7 p.m. The incident remains under investigation by the FAA. So, if you fly private jets like Mike does,
Right.
Get clearance before you taxi out on the runway.
That's crazy. Yeah. Is that your fighter jet, Mike?
Good Lord.
That was the one I pulled up back last night. They're working on it right now.
All
right. That was your mile-high crime.
Mile-high crimes. So, y'all, Kinky Crimes for Friday. And Edwin Toberta of Hamilton, Ohio, was first arrested in 2002 for having sex with an inflatable pumpkin that was part of a Halloween display. In 2008, he was again convicted of public indecency for an unknown crime and received 5 years of community control, also known as house arrest. However, things only got worse from there. In August of 2011, he stole an inflatable pink pool raft from one of his neighbors and went to an alley and then proceeded to have relations with it, right? So he's humping the pool float, okay, in the alley. The neighbor called police and they arrested him. The neighbor took the pool raft back and for some unknown reason kept it. Well, on July 15th, 2013, the temptation became too much for him again, and he again stole the same pink raft. And again, he tried to make sweet, sweet love to it. This time he did it in the middle of the day while children were in the area. He was arrested and pled guilty and received 11 months in prison, right? So that's it's not known if the neighbor threw out the raft this time. But
yeah, hopefully that raft found its way to the trash.
That's your Kinky Crimes for Friday.
God, and we had a guy having sex with a stuffed animal the other day.
Yeah, and all kinds of stuff.
Stuffed animal or a raft? I don't know. That's bad. I
don't really get it. Must be the material on the raft.
That is not good. Well, since we don't have banjos readily available, I'm going to go off the grid a little bit and not do a dumb criminals today. Instead, I want to talk about Bobby for just a minute. Bobby was the world's oldest dog ever, and Bobby just passed away at age 31. Can you believe that? 31. Quick math, 31 times 7.
That's 210.
217, like right?
217.
Because the other 7. So that's the equivalent of living 217 years. Unbelievable. That's Bobby, awesome. The world's oldest dog ever, has died after reaching the almost inconceivable age of 31 years. Oh, we forgot to add in the 165 days. That's like another 3 years. So what do we say? 207? So like 210. And that's according to the Guinness World Record. So this official release came from the Guinness people. His death at an animal hospital on Friday was initially announced by veterinarian Dr. Karen Becker. She wrote on Facebook that despite outliving every dog in history, his 11,478 days on Earth would never be enough for those who loved him. There were many secrets to Bobby's extraordinary old age. His owner, Lionel Costa, told the Guinness people that he always roamed freely without a leash or a chain. He lived in a calm, peaceful environment and ate human food soaked with water to remove the seasonings. We feed our dogs a lot of food off the plate. That's a good idea, the soaking with water, if you're going to do stuff like that. He spent his whole life in Conqueiros, a small Portuguese village about 150 kilometers north of the capital of Portugal. Jim always knows his capitals. Jim?
The capital of Portugal? Romania.
Lisbon.
Woody comes through. Romania would be a separate country, by the way, but Lisbon would be the capital of Portugal. So about 90 miles or so outside of Portugal. And he hung around with a bunch of cats, apparently. He was, I've never heard of this breed, a purebred Rafeiro do Alentejo, which is a breed of livestock guardian dog. The normal life expectancy for that breed is 12 to 14 years. So he more than doubled up that life expectancy. He surpassed almost century-old record to become the oldest living dog, a title which had previously been held by an Australian cattle dog named Bluey, who lived 29 years. That's amazing. But Bobby's story almost had a different ending. When he and his three siblings were born in the family's woodshed, Costa's father decided they already had too many animals at home, and he and his brothers thought their parents had taken all the puppies away to be destroyed. However, a few days later, they found Bobby alive, hidden in a pile of logs. So the puppy hid himself in a pile of logs and then lived to be 31 years old. The children hid the puppy from their parents for quite a while, for months, until he was too old to be put down, and then he became obviously the family pet that we are talking about. His eyesight deteriorated over the years, and his walking ability became harder. But as he grew older and older, he still spent time in the backyard with the cats and rested and napped by the fire. Bobby's special because looking at him is the remembering of people who were part of this family for generations, and I'm sure that's the effect. And I'm a little sad for Bobby, though. You guys want to know why?
Why?
Because Bobby's family doesn't know Roy, Kristen, and Kristen at Louisiana Pet Crematory, because if they did, they would have selected a magnificent urn from Louisiana Pet Crematory, an urn that would commemorate with proper magnificence the tremendous life that Bobby lived. I bet they would have done an amazing urn for Bobby. 31 years.
31
Yeah, that's got to be a record in there.
R.I.P. Bobby.
Yeah.
It is the record, the world record. Rest in peace, Bobby.
Any final thoughts, guys?
Nope. Just love and appreciate each and every one of y'all, and have a happy, good weekend. And thank you for liking and sharing and all that good podcaster stuff we're supposed to say.
Yeah, and hope that they find this guy in Maine, and hope that that things get better soon in the Middle East. So,
All right.
Yeah, and until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agovino.
For Real Life, Real Crime Daily, peace.
Peace.
Aglets.